Are you ready, Lawrence?
Just nearly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're good. Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
So are you able to turn on your camera?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just doing that. I just realised it wasn't on. I do apologise. Okay,
Yep.
apologies,
Yep.
everybody.
Brilliant.
So everyone
Yep.
can see me now.
Yep.
Yes. So apologies there for my lateness there. So first of all, we start this meeting on the 21st of January of the Flood Liaison Group for Royal Windsor and Maidenhead. Can we start with the apologies for absence, please, Lawrence?
No apologies received. Although I think Councillor Howard mentioned Dick Scarf might arrive a bit late.
Okay, super. Okay. Can we then go forward with the minutes, please? Can we confirm that the minutes to the previous meeting held on the 22nd of October are accurate and correct? And are we happy to approve those minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a yes from everyone. Has anyone got any hands up on that? Is everyone? Super. Okay. We'll take those minutes as read. Thank you very much. And then we move on to actions arising from the previous minutes. On our agenda, we have the actions here. The first item, and I didn't see whether David was online. Is David online?
I don't see him online. No.
Okay, because the first item on there is David Mayfield, who obviously one of the key. Have we got anyone here from Thames Water today?
Don't see anyone. No, don't see anyone from Thames Water.
Okay, so
David,
yes.
those are the actions I think you're starting on there from the July meeting. The actions from the October meeting are in the text.
Yeah, these flood days on 22nd of October 2024. Actions arising. Point 1 is David Mayfield to return to the next flood liaison group meeting. That says here in June 2024.
You're not. Are you reading from the minutes of the previous meeting, not the action list attached to the agenda?
Apologies, my apologies. Sorry, guys. Sorry, let me just pull that up now. Apologies for that.
No, don't worry. It's page 13. Page 13 of the agenda.
Yeah, I'm just getting that up now. Just going on there. Oh, that's the agenda. Okay. Right, so actions arising from the minutes here of October. So I've still got the same point on. It's David Harding. I've got here to provide an update on progress. Is that the right minutes I've got here? It's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's correct. So, and David isn't present, no?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not attending.
Right, well, okay. So the first 2 points we've got under David. Obviously, he was going to update to provide at the meeting. We haven't got that. We haven't got any apologies for David either. Have we?
No, haven't seen anything. Haven't heard anything from him.
Okay. So the next item is reference Bisham Parish, which is from Brienne, to remind Richard Hancock to provide a response to the Parish Councillor Colin Lemmings. We've had a response there on the 23rd of the 10th. Are we saying that that's closed now? Is that closed, that item? Is Colin here today?
I'm here. Yeah.
Is that closed for you, Colin?
No, the response was incorrect in that we believe the capacity that he worked out is completely incorrect. And we had 2 other questions, went back to him because he offered a meeting and to answer further questions, and not heard a thing from him since. I've chased twice, just get no response.
Okay. So, Brienne, is that something that you can take up?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry to interject here. It's just there's been a slight staffing change within the Environment Agency. I'll go into that more during the Environment Agency updates, but I will be taking over from Brianne now. So I will happily look into that for you. I apologise that you haven't had a response. I will catch up with Richard after this meeting and see what I can find out.
Right, okay, and I can see Brianne's online anyway, but I won't ask you to come in now, Brianne, but you are there, so it's fine. Okay, so Alice, you're going to follow that up for Colin, and this takes me on to one of the points that we've discussed in our pre-meeting the other week, trying to make this group more effective and more functional. Is we need a lot of these things done in the background. Colin, could I ask, and any other members, to, if they feel that they're not getting these answers, could they bring it to us as chair and vice chair before the meetings? And we can follow this up for you as well to make sure these are being done, because obviously we get into these meetings and then we find things aren't being done. It's sort of very frustrating and demoralising for everybody. So is that something you're happy to do, Colin and other members, that if you do ask for something and we give it a fair, reasonable amount of time and you don't hear from it, can we please hear from you and copy us in so we can deal with a lot of these matters before we come to the group? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Is everyone happy? Is everyone happy with that? Has anyone got any comments regarding that? Before I move on that. Okay.
Alice, I think Richard may have been poorly. He missed a meeting I was at last week.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button there. Yes, he has been unwell for a period as well, so that probably has played into it. I believe he is back now, but I had a few days annual leave, so I will check in with that. Obviously, if he isn't back, it will be a slightly longer delay in me getting back to Councillor Lemmings.
Okay, but if we follow this on in the background anyway, we can all work together and try and bring these things to a close before they come to the meetings, ideally. Okay, so this will be yourself again, Alice. Then I've got Brianne to update Councillor Howard on the modelling of the cause of the flooding in Cookham.
Yeah, go on.
Go on,
No,
drop
sorry,
in
you
Alice
go.
in first.
We did have the holder message which came through on the 28th of November, but it was basically a nice wait. We're finding out stuff, so I would like that to remain as an action point to find out what is actually going on, unless you're going to update us today.
I'm afraid not. I'd hoped to have more of a detailed update, but unfortunately, because there's numerous internal teams involved, I don't have a solid update to provide. So that is an ongoing action, and it is something that I'm following up currently.
Okay.
So as soon as I find out more, I will let you know.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same reply which was in November, so I'm happy with that. It's fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mark, obviously, if we can, and Alice, you're happy that will be taken up in the time frame between now and the next meeting, Alice, yeah? I'll take...
Apologies, put myself on mute again. Yes, no, there are ongoing meetings. So yes, before the next meeting or at the next meeting, I plan to have a more detailed update.
Okay. And Mark, if you've got the need, would you bring it forward if you need to?
I would I'd really like this just to stay on the action list, and we just push it forward. We'll push it forward a quarter, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Going on to number 5, David Harding, we've had nothing, and we've been trying to chase David Harding for a while, and so we are very interested on points 5 and 6 to know what's going on. The update which happened on point 6 in the development, well, that was not really a response from David, and it didn't really sort of fill in a lot of gaps. It basically was a response which said, yes, we need to update something and improve, but no details, nothing. So I would like points 4, 5 and 6 to remain on there and just push them forward a quarter. And if the group can encourage Mr. Harding to respond to us, that would be very helpful.
Okay, Ben, can I bring you in here? Is this something that you come under your remit? Can you put any pressure on David? 1, to attend, 2, to send apologies, 3, to you know, give us some support on this, because you know it's just like an echo chamber here if we don't have people attending.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll look to get in touch with David. If I can't get hold of David, someone in Thames Water, to try and work out what's going on in terms of the who's going to respond to these points. Yeah, and then again, Mark, if you give it a few weeks and then let us know,
you know, if things haven't progressed any further, and then we can bring it forward much further, because I'm getting these things that we need to prompt things in the background to get these things resolved. Otherwise, just continue roll forward. We're rolling forward now another quarter on a number of things. So I'm happy to help out and support wherever we can. But I want these meetings to become more functional and active. So we need this feedback if people are failing, please.
Yeah, I do understand that your point. However, these should be coming back to the group as well. So
and no one's taking them off.
Yeah, and yeah, they should be being ticked through, and action lists should be confirmed as well. So yeah, I am happy to chase the people, but
you don't need to, Mark. Just if you can give us an update, that'd be great. If you get to a point where you feel like you're not getting the support, that's all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay, Datchet, David Harding to chase up with James Townsend on Thames Water's response on Datchet Common Brook. Update today. I'm presuming, is Councillor Thompson online?
No, I don't see. No, he's not.
Ewan can shout, but I don't think Datchet have received any response, Ewan, have we, at all? So we're in the same boat as everyone else by the look of it with David. Okay, I won't keep festering on that point. Eaton Wick.
Councillor Brass got a hand up.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Brass. Sorry, far ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, just for Ben. Thank you for your answer on the Birches Green drainage. Any update on Lee Lane drainage problems?
No, but we can bring that in under Parish Council updates rather than now. This is more matters arising. And
that's fine. Sorry, I did join a bit late. Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you.
So we're on to Eaton Wick, and obviously, if members can advise, we've got here the EA to provide support and advice to residents along the Boveney on ways to mitigate flooding issues. This is ongoing, but is there any update from Eaton Wick on this or from the EA? Alice, have you got anything to?
No, I don't believe there's an update on our end. Obviously, if there's anything more specifically that they'd like support with, if they let me know, I'd be happy to look into that. But yeah, at the moment, I believe it's just ongoing.
Sorry, Chair, I can't find where to put my hand up in this yet. I understand that Thames Water are helping with some of the weed clearance now, but Devon may know more about it. I don't know.
Yeah, Devon's got his hand up. Devon, did you want to come in?
So to raise your hand, it's in React, and then you can find the raise hand, if anyone wondering. Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints from Eaton Wick, but the flooding is normally a summer problem anyway, so you probably have until summer to get the advice out.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on to the next point. Again, David Harding to check that David Mayfield and Eaton Wick Waterways has produced joint worded responses to resident queries. I don't know if Devon or anyone from Eaton Wick has got any further input there. Obviously, we haven't got David here, as we know. Should we just leave this on there for the time being, or is there any input from anybody? Devon, you're happy with that to go on yet? So we'll roll that item forward. Is anyone online from Eaton here? Eaton Wick or any from the Eaton?
I don't think so.
Okay, fine. Okay, so next item is Brienne to which will now be Alice to arrange Jeanette Worcester's successor, Kaylee Gard, to undertake a site visit in Eaton. Email sent on the 15th of 11th. Where are we at on that, Alice?
So I believe at the moment we agreed to postpone the visit because Pippa Tucker, who had actually taken over, it wasn't Kaylee, so apologies for that. Pippa Tucker was only doing it as a temporary cover, so we thought it would be more productive if the permanent replacement was taken around instead. So the last I heard from that is that recruitment is underway, and they hope to have the new permanent recruitment in place towards the end of February or March. So I'm planning to catch up with Pippa, who I've been discussing this with, to find out more and see if there is an update and if they have been successful with recruitment. And as soon as I have that information, I will pop an email to Councillor Ludovici to update him and see if that visit can be arranged, if that is acceptable.
Okay, I think on this point, Alice, would it be good for us to get a new organisational chart from yourselves, who we're dealing with and who we're not. 'Cause obviously, I know
Yeah.
some gaps might still be blank, but you know, to be
Mhm.
confirmed will be fine. But I think
Mhm.
it's about roles and responsibilities to the group, so we can understand, because there's obviously a lot of dynamics moving on
Yeah.
in the background from the EA. And I think
Mhm.
all of us here, we've been used to dealing with certain people for a number of years, and those people are now falling away, and we just
Mhm.
we get to know about it at this late stage. So an organisational chart, if that's not too much to ask, would be really helpful if that could go
No.
through to Lawrence.
Yeah, I will action that and I will send it over to Lawrence.
Yeah, if it's a problem, let us know, but that would be ideal. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next point, David Harden again to provide an update today, to provide an update on the second weed cut around the Roundmoor ditch, including whether a new contractor has been assigned. Again, I don't know whether, Ben, you've been advised of anything. There's no one here for me to know that. Devon, have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, Ben, have you heard anything at all?
Nothing from my side either, Chair. So I'll pick this up again. And I'll try and get hold of someone from Thames Water again and make the same other comments.
Okay, so super. So that really brings us to the end of the matters arising now. So I'm just scrolling back to the agenda. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the next point is over to Alice, which is the update from the Environment Agency.
Lovely, thank you. Morning, everyone. As I alluded to at the start of the meeting, there have been some staffing changes within the team that I sit and Brianne previously sat, which is the Partnership and Strategic Overview team for the Thames area. So Brianne has very excitingly secured a 2-year assignment within the Environment Agency's major products team for the Thames area. So that means that she will no longer be the main point of contact for the borough, and I will be taking over. Brianne will still be involved in the Datchet to Hythe End flood improvement measures on a part-time basis, so I imagine you'll cross paths with her there. But for any other queries, please do come to me now. The next update is just in general about the catchment situation. So I haven't received the catchment report for this week yet, so this is as of last week. But the Thames catchment had received 75% of the average rainfall for January. Natural river flows decreased at all sites since the previous week, but flows remain high above the monthly mean for January. Soil moisture deficits, so that's the capacity for the soil to absorb water, are close to zero, and subsequently the groundwater indicator sites are all recording at levels between normal and exceptionally high. I've had a look at the Met Office this morning, and they're currently predicting from the end of this week that there'll be unsettled weather, but this is especially for the northern and western parts of the country, and they expect that the south and eastern areas will miss the worst of the conditions. So hopefully that will remain the same. I also wanted to update you all about Taplow because there were embankment scour hole repairs back in December. So you may already be aware, but emergency repairs were carried out in December on the Jubilee Flood Relief Channel. This was between Taplow Weir and Berry Hill Footbridge. Heavy rains associated with Storm Bert had resulted in the operation of the flood relief channel, and it was during operation that section of the bank subsided. Surveys were undertaken, and it was established that the strong eddies had scoured part of the embankment towards the base, which caused the section above it to subside. The emergency repairs involved filling the scour hole with rock and sand lowered in place by a helicopter. These have been completed, and we will be carrying out a more extensive and long-term repair this year, but I'm yet to have an update, any further update on this. And then I'd also like to update you all on the National Flood Risk Assessment, known as NAFRA2 data. So in December, a report was published, which is a summary of this new data and the new National Coastal Erosion Risk Map data. At the end of this month, so it will be on the 28th of January, new data will be published. So this will be risk of flooding from rivers and seas, risk of flooding from surface water, which you can check on the Check Your Long-Term Flood Risk available on the gov.uk website. Further data is planned to be published in spring 2025, but we don't have a set date for this yet. And then my final update is about flood funding reform. So I'm aware that members of this group have previously expressed an interest about how flood schemes have been funded. And I wanted to share that a consultation is being launched, which will include a review of the existing flood funding formula, which is to look at the challenges facing businesses and rural and coastal communities are adequately considered when delivering flood protection. I understand this consultation is due to open towards the end of February, so we would really welcome your insights and experiences to be shared as part of this. There will be a link that I will try and share in the chat for this. But that is all my updates.
Thank you. If I could ask people to raise their hands if they've got any questions to Alice. You and I can see your hand up. I'll bring you in a moment. Two questions I've got in regards to the embankments at Taplow on the Jubilee River. Has that led to any issues in the functionality of the flood relief channel? Is it still working at full capacity, and can we expect any change to how it's managed at this time?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, this hasn't caused any changes or impacts. The Scour Hole, obviously the concern was that there would be further erosion, and it was to the properties, concerns obviously to the properties in the area and everything like that. But at the moment, the emergency repairs should prevent any, or they will prevent any significant additional erosion. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, there is no concern about the operation of the flood relief channel.
Okay. My second question before I bring others in is in regards to the new data and the new announcement by the EA in regards to the coastal river and erosion, etc. Is that going to be something that's going to be built into plan? I don't expect you to be able to answer this, Alice, but if you could go away and find out for the next meeting if there are types of things that we built into planning. So when you're asked for doing obviously the consultation in regards to a plan application, are these things that the EA is expecting to bring into planning decisions, etc., or is that something that is just going to be on there for people to note? How will this affect people's day-to-day lives, do you know?
Yeah, so I will imagine it will have some impact because there will be some changes to the data, and therefore some of the maps will have changed how they look and the extents of the outlines of, you know, flood zones and things like that. I don't know in depth, or I don't know the details behind this and how much impact it will have. But currently we are having internal briefings because obviously there's been a team who's worked on this. I wasn't personally involved with that. So they're sharing more information about it. So I will go away and find out more information to give you a more specific indication of the impact it will have, if that's okay.
Yeah, and if we could get the links to the items that you mentioned, if that would be kind, is it kind of?
Yeah. Brianne, I can see Brianne shared the press release link, which is the flood funding that I mentioned. Thank you, Brianne. And I can also share the link to the National Flood Risk Assessment webpage, which has the report that I mentioned, and it also has those key dates that I mentioned. So I'll share that in the chat.
Okay. And I haven't got any other hands up other than Ewan's put his hand up the back. I've got Mark. So if I can bring in Ewan first and then Mark after that. Ewan first, please.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect, Ewan.
Yes, good. That embankment was designed wrong, built wrong, and has failed regularly for the last 20 years. I'm not happy about the temporary repairs to it. It's had additional protection put in ever more over the years. And in fact, it first failed back in 2002 and 2003. The question I have that you don't need to answer now, because I know the answer anyway, is why, when the Environment Agency planted all the trees along the embankment to give it some stability, reinforcement, natural reinforcement, why were all the trees cut down? The scour is about 15 metres from £1 million houses that weren't there when the Jubilee River was constructed. I despair. I end my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Ewan. Mark, can we bring your questions in next, please? Thank you. You're on mute.
Hi, Alice. First of all, congratulations on the new job. Hope you're still feeling happy about it later.
Thank you.
I would like to understand, we've been talking with regards to the modelling of the problems with flooding in Cookham to a lady called Anna Burns. And
Yeah.
I just want to check that Anna Burns in this new organisation is still the person to talk to about that, or if she's moved on to something else.
No, she is still very much the person. So she fairly recently, it was towards the end of last year, she was permanently recruited into that job role. So yeah, she's still very much the person to speak to.
Okay. And can I just ask you, is your role at the moment only liaison for, shall we say, this group, or are you the entry point into the EA for any issues we have with flooding on a far wider scale in our area?
Very good question. I hadn't, in all honesty, thought about it. I think it would depend on the issue. I think if you could give me some time, and when I look at the organizational chart, if I sort of give examples of when I would be the best contact and when possibly a different email or a different contact would be better suited, if that would be appropriate, and then I could share that with the group.
Okay, that would be really good. And just to channel your sort of search, the 2 or 3 big questions we get is obviously about environmental flooding from the river, but we also have various questions about asset renewal on the river, for instance, bridges which are falling down, locks which need updating, but also navigation along the river, about removal of half sunken boats and things like that. So if you could sort of give us an update on those 2 or 3 areas, it would be brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, I will add that to my action list, and I will do that along with the organizational chart.
Thank you.
I think coming on that as well, Alice, if we could, what we used to do with Brienne, and hopefully Brienne found it okay, is if people could come to you while we're sorting out this organisational chart, and just you can point them in the correct direction.
Oh, yes, of course.
Just rather than trying to find their way through the abyss on the EA, if you wouldn't mind taking that role as Brienne did before, and just point people into and they'll soon find their relative contacts. As well, that would be really, really helpful. So if there's a problem, they can also contact or copy you in, and then you can take it forward from there. That'd be really appreciated.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And just whilst we're talking, I can see Natasha has very kindly shared the National Assessment of Flood and Coastal Erosion, which is that mapping that I was talking about earlier. Thank you very much, Natasha. So you can all use that link as well.
Thanks, Natasha. Okay, so we haven't got any more hands up, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the update from Thames Water, which I'm presuming isn't happening now because we haven't got anyone here. In regards, so we move on now. We obviously leave that on for the next agenda, and we'll try and deal with that matter in the background.
Sorry, does Natasha or Stuart have updates from the EA?
Oh, apologies. Does anyone else from the EA want to come in?
So if I can very briefly take the opportunity then, seeing as I was asked. So in terms of the Datchet to Hythe End project, since the last meeting in October, we had a very successful round of public engagement events in November. We have updated our project website, and there is a summary report on there that gives some of the data around those events. So the number of people that came, the questions that they asked, the general feedback that we got. So I'll stick a link in the chat that will provide you with that kind of summary of what we presented and what the general feedback was. And if anybody has got any questions, happy to answer them, or if not, get in touch with me separately.
Thank you, Stuart. Natasha, did you want to come in?
No, I just thought I'd show my face and remind everyone that I sort of represent the Hertfordshire North London area, so covering the Colnbrook and the County Ditch. Yeah, any questions about those areas, please let me know, and you can use my direct email address to filter any flooding questions or issues for that location.
Okay, I've just seen a hand come up from Councillor Spillane. Andrew, did you want to come in?
Yeah, hi there, Chair, thank you. It's just a quick question for Stuart, actually. On the last update you sent out from the Datchet Tide end, you mentioned that we were going to have a face-to-face meeting in January to discuss flood resilience. I assume we're not going to have that in January now, as there's only 10 days left, but is something being planned soon for that, Stuart?
Yeah, so the plan will be that we'll do something before the end of February. What I'm keen to do, we're currently working through kind of design options and looking at costing of those options. I want to get a better handle on cost before I look at what might be feasible and what might not be feasible. So what I don't really want to do is come and show you some ideas on what the options are and then have to take them away because it turns out that they're too expensive. So that's the plan. We'll kind of do a quick costing review. Then we can come and have that discussion around here's what the options are looking like, and we can get some feedback from you. So I'll reply to the group in relation to that email that you sent me, and apologies for the delay in getting back to you on that. But yeah, hopefully before the end of February, we'll be sitting down and showing you our work in progress.
That makes perfect sense. If obviously you can give us more information, it's better off to delay it. And David, sorry, just a real quick question. I joined a little bit late. Have I missed the update on the Raisby drain, or is that still to come?
No, I don't think so.
Cool.
No, I presume that will come under from RBWM's update, which is the next item on the agenda.
Oh, great, thank you.
Mark, have you got your hand up? Is that still up or down? Okay, fine, sorry. Okay, so any other questions from EA before we move on to the next one? Okay, so as I was saying, the next item was Thames Water, which they haven't appeared in our meeting today. I'll take an update from RBWM next, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Lawrence, can you share these slides, please?
Sure thing, just give me a sec.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, so if you can go to the next slide, please, Lawrence. Plan to run through a few things I've run through before, so provide some updates on and a few new things to discuss, one of which is a proposal about how we can make the group a bit more action driven, but that was more of a discussion point for members of the forum towards the end, so we're keen on feedback as and when I go through that. So can you go to the next slide, please, Lawrence? We'll go on to the next one, sorry, and on to the Section 19 report. So just as a reminder, so obviously, as you all know, we've been working on the Section 19 report into last year's flooding. Just as a recap, obviously, this is the report into the causes and impacts of the flooding from last January from the flooding from the River Thames, and the report will draw out which risk management authorities or landowners or residents, etc., have responsibilities related to that flooding, and then draw out what those responsibilities are and what recommendations go off the back of those roles and responsibilities. So if you go to the next slide, please, Lawrence. We're now in the final stretch of this piece of work. We consulted with parish councils, ward councillors, and flood wardens for Christmas. We've taken on the feedback from those parties, and the report is being finalised and going through final stages of review, and we're expecting it to be published in the coming few weeks by the middle of February at the absolute latest, but I expect it to be done before that. And then this will be published on the RBWM website, which I'll give a bit more information on later on. Go to the next slide, please, Lawrence. So, as said there, that's where we've gone through all that information. So what I would suggest is that once we get the report is published, I'm happy to send a note round to the group, to the forum via Ellis, to Lawrence, to send around through the send around to group members, and then if anyone has any questions on that, please feel free to just let me know. Next slide, please, Lawrence. And this is just a bit of a reminder. So we obviously still working on the property flood resilience grants that have been dealt down by DEFRA. Bit of a call that these grants are, the applications end for this in January, at the end of January. So last 10 or so days for applications to come in. Now, this isn't the deadline for works to have been completed. However, this is just to get an application form in to say that this is something that they want, property owner would like to take forward. Then we can advise on what information needs to be provided to us to meet that grant. The works therefore need to be completed by May, and that is to allow us enough time to draw the money down from DEFRA to provide those grants back to residents. If anyone knows any residents who haven't applied, who are interested, who want a bit more information, see if it's something they can meet, please do feel free to point them in my direction. I'm more than happy to have a discussion with them to see if that's something we can support them through their application. Next slide, please, Lawrence. So I think as Councillor Spillane mentioned earlier, there's a quick update, main update on projects to Raisbury Drain. If you go to the next slide, please. The works we're sort of undertaking, the work we're doing within the council is we've been in touch with a landowner down at Hythe End. They're proposing a solution to us. The solution that was proposed was a diversion of the Raisbury Drain. But one of the things that we want to ensure is that we're adhering to relevant legislation, and that includes the Enclosures Act. That includes Raisbury, and it includes the Raisbury Drain. So we sought some legal advice from our internal legal team. We have that now sought some specialist advice, the majority of which we've had back, but we've sent back some questions. So we're just waiting on the final answers to those questions. Once we've had those answers, we'll know how we can take that forward and whether that diversion is appropriate. If it's not appropriate, we will communicate that to the landowners to push back towards the reinstating the watercourse through the original route. I'm happy to have any further more detailed discussions with people offline if need be, but at this stage, that's the stage we're at. And with the potential that this could go further into enforcement, it's probably more appropriate to leave this away from public forum. Can you go to the next slide, please, Lawrence? Before I go on to website updates, one thing I will just so Councillor Bra, just to pick up on your point on Lee Lane, as we're talking about projects, the Lee Lane project in particular we were discussing, we had initially planned to install new soakways in that area to try and deal with the water there. Our drainage supervisor met with the landowners down there to discuss the proposals, and it turns out sometime in the past, I'm not sure when, a soakaway was installed in the area we were looking at already. So the project's going to look into identifying what that is exactly, cleaning those structures out, making sure that what's in place is working, but also if there's the possibility of improving them, we will look at doing that as well. So the works will require road closure. So the earliest we'll be looking is April, probably May, May time, because of the narrow nature of the lanes. But I'm happy to provide any further detail if that doesn't answer any questions. And if you have any more detailed questions, I'm more than happy to help with that.
Yes, please. If you can provide me a written answer, that'd be great.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Yeah. Thank you.
So if I move just onto the website, one thing that has been sort of on my to-do list since coming into RBWM has been just improving what we've got on the website. We had as of sort of last week, we had one page that sort of dealt with all flooding matters. Now, one thing that both myself and Emily and the wider emergency planning team have worked on in the last few weeks is just trying to improve that and make more information more widely available to residents. Now, we now have a flood risk management section of the website. Currently, it has 3 pages, one around what the local flood authority is, one which details out, which it hosts the current strategy for the council, which was done in 2014, and one which discusses responsibilities for watercourses and also ordinary watercourse consenting processes. We're planning to add more pages to that, which will include a page for our Section 19 investigations to be posted, and that page will be launched when we publish the report for last year's flooding. we also plan to host more information around sustainable drainage, both for residents to give more information to residents about what sustainable drainage is on new developments, but also have more detailed information for developers about what we'd expect to see in planning applications going forward as well. So we're looking to try and expand the information that's more readily available. Again, if members of the forum have information that they think would be appropriate or they would like to see on our website, I'm more than happy to see some ideas. The more information we have on the website, I always think is the better. So please do let me know if there's anything you can think of. Next slide, please, Lawrence. And yeah, the last thing to cover is just discussion that we've been having. He's mentioned being through this group the last sort of year or so is trying to make sure that the group is acting in the interest of the forum members, making sure that but also making sure that actions are being achieved through the group and it doesn't feel like we're just sort of talking around subjects rather than dealing with issues. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Lawrence. Some experience I've had from a previous role is that instead of having a group, borough-wide group, I used to attend flood action groups, smaller groups across a county, which were they were more set up locally themselves, they would run themselves. However, the agendas are more set around action plans, if you like. So the discussion was around individual points of action, which the local residents or councillors were interested in hearing information about. So as such, a proposal I'm bringing to the forum, if you like, is whether this would be an appropriate structure for this group. And it would look something like action points being raised by parish areas before the meeting, say up to 2 weeks before the meeting, so they can be included in the agenda packs, which would then allow officers those 2 weeks before the meeting to formulate answers. So all officers should be attending them with answers to the questions, and then the discussion we had around those points at the meeting, and items can be either closed off formally or kept open depending on the stage of those actions. There's also the ability to raise points at new points at meetings. However, the expectation would be that an answer may or may not be able to be provided because that time hasn't been provided to come up with the answer. Teams may have to be discussed currently, like we currently have at this group, where things might get taken away. The other opportunity is that if multiple areas ask for the same thing, so they ask for information around, for example, who's responsible for a water course, who's responsible for maintaining what, then that issue, rather than being added to an action plan, could be discussed between myself, the chair and vice chair, about whether we ask the relevant authority to prepare a presentation on that specific point, which may be relevant and helpful to everyone. You can go to the next slide, please, Lawrence. So what would happen is that we would send out something like this to the forum members beforehand, and we'd ask the parish areas to send in up to 3 points per meeting, that just to make sure we have enough time to go through everything. But the main thing being that those points that are being raised have either gone through the normal business as usual routes or a form of business as usual route, and that an answer has been provided before, and not raising new points at the meeting that haven't had that initial run through. Basically, making sure that the things that are being discussed are those points that need may need extra scrutiny. That's all I've got on this at the moment. If there's any feedback from the forum, I'm happy to take that now, or happy to take that during the parish sections. But yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah, I think if we open this up today, I think I just come in on that point, that the presentation. Thanks, Ben, for that. The whole idea is to try and we're limited on our remit in regards to the group, but at the same time, we want to create action rather than just a talking shop. And I think the whole idea of this is, obviously, we're going to be working with other parties and other authorities to make sure they attend the meetings, but at the same time, to people who are attending these meetings, like ourselves, myself as chair, and people who are making the effort to come to these meetings, see actions actually happening. And there's been this consensus in the group that we become a bit of a talking shop and we don't really get anywhere. So the whole idea of this is to put processes in place, hold people to account, making sure things are getting done and giving people on the forum, parishes in particular, more input in regards to understand these things and coming in early, as Lawrence has said a couple of weeks before, where officers can start planning and discussing with parishes, etc. So we get into some action points. And the whole idea is to make these meetings more progressive. So I'll open the agenda up. Mark's got his hand up first. If anyone wants to put their hand up in the group, I'll bring you in for discussion. Any points, Mark?
I'm a bit balanced on it because I like the idea of something being very focused on the areas that I'm interested in. But at the same time, trying to get some of these organisations to attend is challenging at best. And in our particular situation, it has only been through this sort of group and a couple of other groups that we've managed to get people like Thames Water to pay attention to us. So there is the argument that dividing is making it more relevant, but it also divides our limited amount of pressure that we can put on any parties.
Yeah, I'll come back on that. I'll take Colin's got his hand up as well. I don't think we're looking to change that at all. Everything that is in place now would stay in place. This is just trying to drill down on some more detail and some more action points and trying to get things to move along. Because, you know, being in the local flood authority, they've got lots of things that they have to go through, the loops they have to go through within the council and the local flood authority. It's helping them to do that in the background, whereas it's not just talking about it on today's meeting. And I have to thank the EA. I've got to be honest with you. You know, I'm looking around the scope now. The EA have always attended these meetings and give it the value that it's always it should have. And obviously, as you've mentioned, Mark, Thames Water in particular hasn't. And we struggle as a group, as we do with all parishes, with Thames Water as a body generally. But again, we can work on that proactively in the background if we can try and work with that authority and that agency to try and bring them in a little bit more. So this whole thing is about bringing it all together and trying to get some more action points. But thank you for your points, Mark. Colin. You're on mute, Colin.
Yeah, sorry. I would have a concern that the time between these meetings is obviously quite long, a number of months. So issues that we raise, it might be 2 or 3 months before they're ever brought to a meeting. Yeah. So I would think this is a forum perhaps for long-term issues, but not for things which arise in the short term, particularly during times of flooding.
Yeah, Chair, if you're happy for me to come back
on, go on, Ben,
that. So yeah, Colin, I would agree. So I'd expect those short-term issues to come through the business as usual routes as they would normally do. So I wouldn't be expecting, for example, if we were to run this in April, for example, I wouldn't expect things that came up next week for you to wait until the next meeting. I'd expect you guys to get in touch with us and for us to deal with it in the meantime. It's one of those things. I think we would generally ask for those action points to be provided, say, a month before the meeting, for example, rather than you waiting, instead of submitting them now for next time, and then, or up to a month. So even as long as it's within those 2 weeks before the meeting, we're not too fussed in terms of when they're provided. It's just a case of giving us the time, at least those 2 weeks before the meeting, to prepare answers. But yeah, I would agree. Short-term issues do keep coming through the normal business as usual means.
Yeah. Okay. Just coming back on that, Colin, nothing will change. This is just to add another layer of focus to the group and to allow people to come in with points that they'd like discussed. As been mentioned in the presentation, it might be a collection of points that come in from different parties, and it might be worthwhile the EA doing a presentation on it, or the local flood authority, or Thames Water. So it's just to bring another layer of detail into the meetings. But nothing changes. Nothing changes on a day-to-day, or exactly. It's business as usual.
Okay.
Jane, is that yourself with your hand up?
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. Ben, can we go back a slide?
Yep.
With the water courses,
mm-hmm.
That more information. I know you had a chat with John quite some time ago, and he offered to give you some info on the watercourses in the village that he actually clears and keeps a lookout on.
Yeah.
Have you actually got that list still, or do you need it
I'll try and dig it out. If I haven't got it, what I'll do is I'll get Dan, who's our flood risk officer, to touch base with John. And if John, because he sort of deals with our more day-to-day enforcement, so it's probably better him making sure he knows that information. But one way or another, we'll make sure we've got it. And if we haven't got it, I'll touch base with yourselves.
Watercourses are new little nuisances if you don't keep on top of them.
Yeah, no worries, Jane. We'll check it. We'll come back to you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jane. Mark, you've got your hand up still, but is that an old one again? Yeah, okay. Has anyone else got any input from there, or if they could let us have any input in the background, that'd be great. No one else has got their hands up. Okay, go on to the next point on the agenda. Just before we clear, Ben.
Sorry, Chair. Ben, does Emily Merritt have an update from an emergency planning perspective?
Emily?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've got a little update for you. Also, if you don't know me, I'm Emily Merritt. I'm one of the emergency planning officers with RBWM. So just a little update with regards to what we've been doing recently and since the flooding last year. So I've mentioned previously, but we undertook a debrief and identified areas of that went well, areas that didn't go so well. And following this debrief, we've been actioning upon the recommendations that came about from that debrief. So one of these recommendations was to incorporate several items into our plans. So we've got our overarching adverse weather plan and our flooding annex. So these plans have now been updated with the relevant information that we required and has been shared internally with officers. So I note that we have had a number of requests on sharing these plans. So just to note, these plans detail our internal arrangements during a flooding response and in the event of any adverse weather incident, not just flooding. And due to some of the sensitive details that we have within those plans, so some of this information is personal contact numbers, professional partner lines into such like Thames Water and the Environment Agency, and also some specific data which we've acquired from other multi-agency partners. So we can't share this plan, but I note that the plan, or some of the information held within the plan in terms of the communication routes and the command and control and our activation processes, would be of use for you within the parish and flood wardens. So I'm currently working on a redacted version of this plan that will incorporate all of those aspects that we can share with you, because it is noted that that would be of use. So I'm currently working on that, and hopefully that will be able to be shared. I'm not going to give a specific timeline, but in due course, and definitely before the next flood liaison group, which I think is in April. Another one of the recommendations was to make the process of communications between ourselves within the council and with whoever's on the ground that little bit clearer. So including things like situation reports, and various comms routes. So one of my colleagues is currently working on a SITREP, so a situation report template, in which we'll be able to share with parishes and flood wardens, which will be a document that's hopefully quite clear to use, and you can fill out information that's going on within your parish or within your area, and that can be fed back into the command structure when it's established. So there's a clear process in which we receive information from yourselves, and a clear template which will be consistent across the whole borough. Also, in terms of that command and control arrangements piece, I did provide an overview of the command and control arrangements at our annual flood wardens meeting back in November. So this provided an overview of the activation and what we have set up on the ground, what we have set up in terms of that operational response on the ground, that tactical level and that strategic level. All of this information will be within that redacted version of the plan, in which we intend to share with yourselves. So you'll all be able to see that when it comes around. And in light of all of this that I've just mentioned, it is useful, obviously, for us to engage with yourselves, not only at these meetings, but separately in order to help update your community emergency plans, generic community emergency plans, but also those specific flood-related elements as well. So we have been in liaison with some areas already to help work and develop on either developing their plan or updating their plan based upon the information that we provide. So obviously we'll work with those areas, and thereafter we'll look to work with other parishes if you would like to have our support and engagement in reviewing and developing those plans. So that's everything from me, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Emily. Has anyone got any questions for Emily? Mark, you've got your hand up. Yep.
I would just like to say that we've, as Cookham and Bisham, we've recently got in touch with Emily, and through the group that she works with, we've set up a meeting with the flood liaison groups inside our own parishes to try and run through our emergency plans to make sure that we're all sort of meshing together better. And Emily is at the moment trying to arrange a date to either come down or talk to us about making sure that we have a unified approach between us, because we're not overly, well, at least in Cookham, we're not overly sure that we have that at the moment, and we want to make sure that we've ticked all the boxes. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Mark. Colin, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing as Mark. So thank you. We're looking forward to that. I would highlight those two areas, which are partly, I think, for Emily, but also for Ben, is that the reaction from our residents in this parish is that they are not happy with having a series of emergency telephone numbers and contact details, dependent on what type of flooding it is. How can somebody whose house is about to or is flooding expected to know whether that flooding is coming from a river or from the ground or anywhere else? And we would be looking for a coordinated single set of contact details that they can use to report flooding and ask for help. And I think that overall is the one single thing that people have asked for in this area.
Excellent. Emily, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, I can come back on that. So I totally understand that if you're having flooding in your home, you might not necessarily know where that flooding has come from, whether that's rivers or surface water or groundwater. I think one of the things to mention is that there's different responsibilities, obviously, with the different types of flooding. And what we have developed, I can mention for West Berkshire is one of the other councils that I work for. We've developed a A5, not sure what size, but it's effectively a leaflet which has all the different types of flooding and the different agencies that you contact for those floodings. So obviously for main rivers, it's Environment Agency; for sewage, it's Thames Water; surface water, it's ourselves, and so on and so on, and the relevant numbers for each of those authorities to contact. So I don't know whether it would be of use. We can get in touch with our comms and digital team to develop something similar for RBWM, because we have had similar requests from residents in those areas as well, to highlight that it is a struggle, particularly when water might be coming through your door and you want to do something quickly about it. You don't want to sift through, various pages to try and find the right number. So I'm sure we can look into that and hopefully get something quite quickly done, because we can just use a similar template that we've used in West Berkshire. I don't know, Ben, you want to come in?
Yeah, I think what Colin's saying is, and I think if I'm right, Colin is saying, what you're really saying is one number where people can call and then possibly be directed to, but Emily and the agencies, you need to look at that and see where you take that from. But I think that's where Colin's coming from, is it, rather than having to sift through all the different numbers, it's having one number and then be directed to the correct place that's relevant to that area.
Yeah, I don't know how easy it would be, because obviously it's different organisations. So say if you ring up the Environment Agency reporting flooding, I don't know how easy it would be for them to redirect a call to Thames Water if it's, you know, to do with
No,
sewage. I don't know that in respect to
I
that.
totally accept it's not there, but I think what Colin's saying from residents' point of view is they're asking us, you know, not us here as a group, but as agencies, to take it away and have that conflab and.
Yes, there is, like, on the gov.uk that if you put in your location, I think like your postcode or where you are, it will come up with what types of flooding you're susceptible to, in terms of if you're at high risk of rivers, if you're at high risk of groundwater. So I suppose that could be granted that obviously if there's a drain blocked, then that would be something different to what comes up on gov.uk. But there's a starter for 10 that people could look into to try and work out potentially what type of flooding they might be impacted by.
Okay. Colin, I'm going to bring you in a moment. Colin, was that okay? I think we're going down a rabbit hole with it, really, to be honest with you, but we made the point to the agencies. It's down for them and the government to try and facilitate your request, but
I really don't understand why it's not possible to get a single emergency number and then have it redirected. That seems very obvious to me, and surely all of the different agencies to work together to man a telephone line. That's all it's needed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's one for us though, but at the same time, I think we made the point. I've got Mark waiting to speak and then Jane afterwards. So Mark, if you want to fire away.
Just, I think splitting this problem up into two parts is what we're talking about. Is that when Emily's approach that she's talking about there is perfectly valid, where it is a one house type, small type issue. I see that, and I see being able to talk to the right people at that moment is good. However, the JEPU, the Joint Emergency Unit that we have set up, also meets twice a day during any time that an emergency has been stated. It meets once in the morning, once in the early afternoon to run through things. Now, my own evidence on this, or experience, is that when I was trying to get through, sorry to take Thames Water's name in vain again, Thames Water, to talk to people about flooding in people's houses and things like this, Thames Water is incredibly difficult to get through to, and then you get through to somebody who can't help you generally. However, when I reported that through JEPU, I got that issue immediately responded to, say immediately, in the same day. Someone would come back, and in one or two cases, we actually had tankers turn up to do pumping exercises on certain places that day. So what I think is that at this moment is maybe what we're after is a joint emergency number for JEPU, that in times of major problems, when JEPU is actually in action, we can actually contact JEPU, who then figure out and can escalate issues based off some sort of scoring system that they might have of how big a problem they are, to bring it forward and get emergency action happening quicker. Because the alternative route, shall we say, going via Thames Water, involved me having to discuss what my water rates number was. And you're sort of sitting there going, well, this isn't really a big issue because there's a 2 foot of water outside full of sewage coming in. But they have processes, they have automated processes, they're not dealing with this. So the emergency planning group is the obvious place to go in. We need an entrance, not necessarily for everybody, but a way of getting information into it reasonably quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in the other people now. So Jane's next, Richard after that, and then Ben. Jane.
Am I muted?
No, you're fine.
All I can do is hark back to previous scenarios. My concern is that it's all getting a bit silo driven and disconnected, because we, from our situation, the first port of call for the village is us. So if they've got a problem, the first person who hears about it, or if they want help, they'll come to John, they'll come into the parish office, or they'll call the emergency number. Now, in days gone by, we could then just call one number and say, right, we've got this particular issue, we need portaloos, or at the time we need sandbags. So it all happened much more quickly. There was a sense that you could say to residents, actually, it's being dealt with. Things are happening. You weren't bogged down in numerous phone calls or trying to track the person that you needed to talk to. Because when you're in that scenario, and those of us who were around at the time, it's people want to see action. And as long as people feel and can see that things are being done, the panic levels drop. And there's a sense of community where people kind of feel, well, actually, we can manage this. If you're spending all your time as a parish officer or a parish councillor on the phone trying to find the right point of contact, it's quite depressing, actually, and very time consuming. So anything that makes it keep it simple, stupid.
I think we all agree, Joan. I think, but when, as Mark said, when it becomes an emergency, you've got another level of coming in and you can talk to one person. You get a lot more done when the emergency is called. I'll bring Richard in. Richard next, and then Ben, please.
I'm not sure, and Emily will be able to correct me. I mean, the first thing, obviously, there's this division that's arisen from privatisation of the water industry between EA and water companies. So that will have introduced an extra telephone number at that point. But I presume that JEPU wouldn't have the capacity to field phone calls from the public. So it's more a question of having a restricted number that maybe councillors could have access to, rather than a number that is going to try and host calls from the public, because I presume JEPU is actually quite lean manned.
Yeah, good point, Richard. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, could I just come back on?
Yeah, Emily, go on.
So to avoid any confusion, we are JEPU, we're the Joint Emergency Planning Unit, but we are the borough's emergency planning team. I just wanted to clarify if there was any confusion, in which we do have a singular point of contact for us in the Joint Emergency Planning Unit, in which we do, it's on the slides that Ben shares at the end of his presentation. So that is for if there's anything arises in ours, that goes directly, contact that number, that goes directly to us. So that's not only out of that could be, normal BAU, but then it's also during a flooding incident, we also share that number as a point of contact into, I know that it goes into us, so it's into the emergency planning unit, but if it's obviously during a flooding incident, we're within our emergency operations centre, who meet either daily, twice daily, or they're in operation, but they might have sub meetings throughout the day. So we can kind of cascade that through to the relevant area at a particular time. So we do have that already set up and in place. So unless you want a specific number that doesn't just go to us, it could go to a more wider group, but then that would just be our regular customer service or customer contact centre. I forget what the specific name is, and then they filter through to the EOC.
Yeah, I think having that one number for yourselves is key when things are actually happening, as Jane said, and the others have commented. So that's great, Emily. I think if we take it away and look at it from a resident's point of view, rather than from a councillor or an emergency point of view, because the public need reassurance, as Jane said. If the public have answers and have these issues dealt with, it does relieve that pressure when there is an event. We've all sat through flood events, and it is whatever we can do to manage the stress for people is important, and that phone number, that first initial phone number, is key as well. But yeah, I think if the agencies take it on board, I'm going to bring in Ben here so we can draw this, because we've still got a bit more on the agenda. Ben.
Yeah, just to sort of finalise this sort of thing. I think one thing, as Emily sort of alluded to there, is that one, we're sort of, I think as Councillor Howard mentioned, because there is sort of the two separations of, the smaller day-to-day issues and then a larger scale flood event. In this case of a larger scale flood event, there is obviously a scale of numbers you would expect to call first. Obviously, if there's an immediate threat to life, the first thing residents should be doing is calling 999. They shouldn't be calling the council at all. They should be calling the emergency services as their first port of call. beyond that, where we're in the EOC setup, and Emily, keep me honest if things are if what I'm saying isn't 100% accurate. When we're in that EOC setting, the contact center will be set up to ensure that stuff is put through. So the normal lines of communication to the council would be the appropriate lines of communication to get to the EOC. And we're not talking about stuff eventually filtering themselves through. It would be stuff getting through to the EOC fairly quickly, I would expect. So beyond that, though that would be my suggestion of those, as Jane said there, keeping it simple is the most appropriate thing. Though that would be my suggestion of keeping it simple. And outside of business hours, the council does have an emergency outside of business hours number as well, which again we provide at the end of the presentations, and we can highlight that on the website and provide links if we need to the group. But those simple lines of communications do exist. It's just, I think, maybe for us presenting them in a way which clearly prioritizes them for residents to use as and when something would arise.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Mark, is your hand still up? Is that an old one again?
No, this is. I agree. I think I like the leaflet idea, but I think the leaflet idea has to be structured right, because as you said, is that a threat to life should be the first one at the top, which is 999. And after that, I think there is value in having that leaflet shared. But I think at the same time, we also have to understand that sometimes things are bigger and more complicated than we want them to be, and that we have to have some sort of reserve on that. So I would really like us to have that leaflet created for Cookham, possibly Bisham if Colin's keen, and then we can distribute it, and put it on a magnet on the fridge door or whatever.
Yeah. So Emily, would you be happy to share that?
Yeah, I can work in liaison with West Berkshire and share it across to RBWM, because I assume it will be much of the same content, just slightly different, because obviously we're in a slightly different area. But yeah, more than happy to do that.
Excellent. And then we as a group and those parishes, we can look at seeing how we can get that out to the community and where it can benefit everyone as well. Okay. Okay, if we can close that item, and then we can move on now to the next item on the agenda, because we're drifting a little bit, is the update from the parish councils. Is there any update for any particular parish councils today that anyone wants to step forward with? I know that a number of people are missing, but there's a number of people here. Councillor Bra, I think your point was cleared by Ben earlier. So if you're happy with that. Any other items to cover from parish councils? We covered a lot today. Ewan's got his hand up. Is there anybody else? Okay, so if we take Ewan, and I've got Andrew after that. So Ewan, if you could fire away.
Oh, well, if you could take Andrew first, and then I'll fill in the gaps.
No, you go ahead, Ewan. Go on.
Oh, okay, so I've raised the petition again for the Raisbury drain that is still blocked and flooding the village green. So we're on the way to abandoning the Raisbury Fair on the village green for the second year in a row, because the groundwater level is too high, because the Raisbury drain is blocked and nobody has unblocked it. There's a few other things. I'll bring them up later. Thank you.
Andrew.
Yeah, so
just about hear you, Andrew. Have you got a way of getting closer to the mic?
Yeah, sorry, is that better?
That's better, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Raisbury drain, as Ewan said, is full, and we haven't even had a lot of rainfall in the last short period of time. But I won't go over what Ewan just said. I think we do need to try and find a way of sorting that out as soon as possible, and not wait for it to be cleared. I have spoken to Carolyn about potentially us trying to pump some of the water out of that, just to see if that makes it go down. And we have got plans to actually clear the ditch around the green, but and the bit that belongs to the parish council. But my question really is probably more for Ben. Last time we met, we talked about walking along the Staines Road and knocking on residents' doors to see if they would allow us to come and have a look, and if we can encourage them to do their riparian owners' responsibilities. So Ben, is there I've got the document. I don't need to send me the riparian owners document, but is there any update on when you might be able to spend that time? Because I think it would be very useful if we are with you or you are with us.
Yeah, Andy, I'm more than happy to pick that up with you. I can't give you a specific date, but it's just because I haven't got a calendar in front of me. But I could, if maybe we pick up offline, I can look to get our flood risk officer Dan Rice involved as well, because he deals with our day-to-day working with landowners day-to-day to manage water courses. I think management of the raised drain is going to be a lot, not long term, but it's going to be a long term improvement bit of work. So I think we're happy working with you guys as the parish council will be a really good idea. So if I can drop you a line in the next few days with some suggested times for us to get together, would that work?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Any other points from parish updates? Okay. Well, if we haven't got any more updates from the parish, we move on to the last item, which is dates of future meetings. And the next date is on the 22nd of April, 2025, via Zoom again at 11 a.m. And I think we're through everything now. So, Ewan, you've got your hand up, but obviously, is this a parish update, Ewan, or is this just a general Ewan update? I think that the situation is that we've covered enough today. We've now done a good session. I'm happy to take that forward if you want to do it under parish or whatever else, Ewan, or borough. But I don't think we need to carry it on now. If it's a parish update, I think we've heard it all. I'm happy to carry on the conversation in the background after the meeting's closed.
At your peril, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's fine. Okay, so I'm happy to close this meeting and
sorry, Chair, Ben's got his hand up.
Ben, sorry, I missed that. Go on.
Sorry, Chair, just the last thing, just on the structure ahead of the next meeting. Is it worth just obviously seeking feedback on that structure and making a decision ahead of the next meeting? Can I invite comments for that structure for maybe sort of mid-February if I send a date round to Lawrence to add to the agenda to add to the minutes? Should we ask for some comments by mid-February sort of time, and then we can make a decision on which direction we go in terms of that structure? Just want to make sure.
I think everyone needs to have input and obviously be happy about how things are going. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do we have a document you sent us, Ben?
The stuff will be included in the presentation will be included in the minutes. I'm happy to put together a bit more information if that would be helpful.
Yeah, Mandy's got her hand up.
Are you happy to share the slide you presented, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we haven't got on the agenda to take additional questions, so I'm sticking to the agenda on this item, and we'll thank you for everyone for attending, and I look forward for the next meeting and progressing things in the background over the next couple of months. And thank you all again, and catch you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Call the meeting to a close. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.